Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I got a video today that I think you're going to find super interesting. I'm going to go over some facts and information evidence that I've hit before, but I'm also got some new information. One on the remains of the young girl that were found in 2013. Texas Rangers released new information yesterday about that, and then also I'm going to talk about a few subjects I haven't talked about before, which is like Midland Crime Stoppers and some other information. You're going to find this interesting. I think I'll name it DHS text messages, because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at text messages between myself and DHS Agent Paul with Homeland Security. And these were from July 2nd, 2019. That's the day that actually Paul had contacted me and requested to meet me at my house. And I was excited and said, sure. And then he called back later or text back later and said there was a holdup and wanted me to wait. During that time, that's when Vice President Pence turned around and mysteriously flew back to Washington. But then later that afternoon, he says he wanted to meet me at the Home Depot store. So I'm heading over there, excited and everything. And I get over there, and then he just catches me off guard and says, I don't know why you don't sell that home if you're living under the threat of death. And he's angry, he's mad, and man, that caught me off guard, because all of a sudden, red flag, dirty cop, here's another guy trying to cover up these murders, and these underground facilities. That's what I was thinking. And so I explained the Hobbs Act to him. So anyway, that's what this is about. I'm gonna show you. Here's the text messages. After I left that day, I showed him where I believe the tunnel was at. We looked at the wall in the alley behind my home. There's evidence there. We looked over my fence in the backyard where it's believed the underground home is. After they left, I sent this text message to him. But here, you can see it right here. We're in the parking lot of Home Depot in a white Ford Explorer and black Ford F-150. That's what he's telling me. That's when I was there. We're standing outside our vehicles. And so we're standing out there, and that's when he caught me off guard, And so after I got home, I sent him a long text message, and I sent him a video called Decided to Sell My Home. And that video is about people that are conspiring together to terrorize me into selling my home. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But anyways, he watched that video, and then he's upset again. You can see what he writes here. He says, Buddy, let's get something clear. I was not trying to talk you into selling your home today. I simply asked you why you wouldn't consider selling your home if you continue to feel threatened in there. And I asked you not to twist my words in something I didn't say, Remember, our entire conversation was recorded. That's very important, because I consider the recording as evidence, And because on that recording, it's going to have me explaining the Hobbs Act to him, how it's against the law to conspire with others to terrorize a property owner and selling their home. And as I'm going to go on this, on this story, as I wrote on this Facebook post, I compared this to the bank having a robbery, the teller getting shot, the police getting called, and the police showing up at the bank going, I don't know why you don't sell this bank. And do you see how how absurd that is? I didn't call you to tell me to sell my property. And what's happening is corrupt police are looking the other way while crimes are being committed against me. That's why I don't feel safe in my home. I was shot inside my home, and they have allowed these burglaries and death threats against me for years, and it's police looking the other way. So anyway, that was the text messages from that day. That's going to start this. And so I have a big write-up here. And this time I broke it out in paragraphs and then backed it up with, little proof pictures or whatever to explain it. And so we'll start the top here, okay? I showed them, and that was Homeland, where I believe the tunnel was located that went from there to my home, from the Home Depot store to my home. I believe this tunnel was used by the people who went to the underground oil show parties. I found this by searching old map pictures on Google Earth, and it was easy to see where the ground had been cut for a large ditch. This is something I've shown before, so this is not new at people that, follow my YouTube channel and Facebook, But I'm going to show you this. If you use Google Earth and you go back in time, the historical maps, that's where I found this, and so here's my home. I was actually shot right here, okay, and and then my phone lines were cut, so I crawled out right here, got caught on camera. And this picture was dated in like June 2011, so about 6 months before the murder attempt, okay? Premeditated capital attempted murder. At the top is a print screen of a guy that told me, Ricky Ronaldo said, I used to live in your house, and me and my brother used to go in the tunnels under it when we were kids, you know. So I got a print screen. But what I was showing here is behind in the trucking lane, the secluded trucking lane behind the Home Depot store, you can see where the asphalt was cut, where a ditch was cut, aimed directly at a Home Depot, going directly to my house. Actually, yesterday it goes towards my den, and there was a woman I recorded on the phone. It says your den, in your den, you know. That's what she said, and I made a video about that yesterday. But that's where it looked. You could tell where the ditch was cut, where the tunnel was put in, going from the Home Depot store to here, you know. And what I believe is when in 2010 during the oil show party, Angie would leave my house. We'd talk on the phone, and she'd go park in front of Home Depot, go underground there, and she'd come back here. And then in over here is one of the $4 million underground homes, and I believe where the oil show parties were going on, and that's where that young girl was murdered at. You know, we talked on the phone while she drove. It was 5 minutes away, and so I'm sure that's where these oil show parties was in these underground homes, you know. And there was a tunnel. So I want to show you that picture. Y'all can look that up. You have to download Google Earth. I suspected the young girl they murdered in 2010, which Angie told me about, that had been inside that tunnel, and possibly DNA evidence could be found there. So that kind of makes sense, right? This yesterday, that was in October 2010 when Angie told me about the young girl dying, and in August 2013 the remains of a young girl were found outside of Midland. There's Crime Stoppers on it. Yesterday there was an update. That's what this is here. It says the Texas Rangers have been working on this cold case, and through DNA analysis the remains have been identified as a black female. That's the new information that hasn't been posted, other than a white or Hispanic as originally thought. Okay, so basically, and I've long suspected this girl, 14 to 21 year old girl found outside of Midland in 2013, was the same one that Angie told me about being murdered at the oil show party in 2010. And I tried to get Angie to report that murder, and she was afraid and said high-level police were at the party, you know. This was from Midland Crime Stoppers, and I posted on Midland Crime Stoppers yesterday a long story. You can see in October 2010, my friend, and I named her, told me about this, and so I have a long message on there. And then I turned around and I submitted a Crime Stoppers tip, and then I turned around and submitted a tip to the Texas Rangers directly. I'm going to explain that more in a minute. So there's new information on the remains found. Okay, so here's the Crime Stoppers tip yesterday, and my case number, you know, website. And I'm going to explain here in a minute that I have serious concerns with the integrity of the Midland Crime Stoppers. I'm going to show you why. And because I have sent, you know, several Crime Stopper tips, and nothing's happened, and the crimes against me have continued, you know, and you know, it's believed to be connected with multiple murders and lots of evidence. Okay. And I want to show you here, and this I found recently, Apache Oil Company gave large donation to Midland Crime Stoppers. And so Apache is a large local, you know, it's an actual national oil company. And I've wondered if they, you know, obviously they had a booth at the oil show, right? But I've wondered if they had people at the underground oil show parties, if they would have motive to cover up the murder of that little girl at the 2010 oil show party. And what it's showing here is it's dated in October 2020, okay, which is not that long ago. Apache did a $5,000 donation to Crime Stoppers. You know, I see that recently. I saw where Pioneer Oil Company donated $100,000 to Midland Police, Midland Sheriff, Odessa Police, and Odessa Sheriff. All law enforcement agencies that I've contacted that seem to just turn their back on evidence and allow crimes to happen, you know, and you know, that are believed that oil companies might be involved in. Okay, and so here's a picture of Apache, you know, giving this large donation to Midland Crime Stoppers. Okay, I'm going to show you another interesting thing here in a minute. I thought I had it in there. Okay, what I want to do, I'm going to skip one. I'm going to go to here. Okay, Klingman is our former DA. She's on the board here. Okay, I don't think I named them there. What I was looking for was on the board for Midland Crime Stoppers is Teresa Klingman right here, and she was the DA, the district attorney, when I was hunted like an animal and shot and left for dead in my own home. And then the large group of secret police were caught on camera, and it took 6 years to get identified, you know. And instead of pressing charges against those that are caught, you know, caught committing these crimes, she resigned. And you know, come to find out, Klingman was, you know, her brother was my former attorney from when I lived in Hobbs, from New Mexico. She has strong links back to my hometown, you know. But now she's like vice president of Midland Crime Stoppers. She went from DA that was looking the other way when all them crimes were committed to now she's on Crime Stoppers. That's what I was saying. I have concerns when I send Crime Stopper tips, okay? And another one that's on that list for Crime Stoppers on their board was Margarita Strahan, okay? She was at my home, and I'm going to show you this, on 10/19/12 after Rhonda Ainsworth, this is a person I went to school with, who worked for Apache, okay? She worked for Apache, called the police to my home since I was off Facebook for a few hours. I had gone to Hobbs for the day to see my mom's gravestone since it was her birthday. Now we got to admit that's odd, right? I mean, I'm gone for a few hours. You know, I drove from Midland, it's an hour and a half drive over there. Met my dad, we went to lunch, we went to see my mom's gravestone right here because it was her birthday. That's when it was, October 19th was the date, October 19th, 2012. And that was that was the same year that I was ambushed and shot. I was ambushed and shot in January, okay? And so, Mom had died the month before as ambushed shot with still unanswered questions. So Rhonda White here, which is Rhonda Ainsworth White, had called in this welfare check or whatever, you know, and because I haven't posted in a few hours. Now that's odd, right? And Rhonda worked for Apache. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if Rhonda knows about the underground homes. I wonder if other people who work for Apache know about the underground homes and or the murders. And who was there? Margarita Strahan, and she's on the board of Crime Stoppers, okay? And doesn't appear anybody's home. Checked all windows. We couldn't help or whatever. What's interesting is I had all my blinds open, and Rhonda later calls me and says, "Why did you leave your blinds open?" You know, well, it's my business, my blinds, right? But the reason that they didn't break into my home was because my blinds were open and they could look inside my house and see I wasn't here, you know. Otherwise, they were going to break into my home while I was gone for a few hours because I believe that was the plan. I think Rhonda Ainsworth White has some questions to be answered. Margarita Strahan was also one of the Midland Sheriff deputies that quit during the investigation by the Texas Rangers, okay? And this is a current news story here before Kreiner was elected right there. And Gillette was the temporary sheriff, whatever. But there was a deputy chief, Rory McKinney, okay, who was running for sheriff. He didn't win. And then right here resigned Sergeant Investigator Margarita Strahan. And it was big news. The Texas Rangers were investigating 5 Midland Sheriff employees, right? They never said why, but I wondered if it wasn't because of underground homes, you know, and the murder attempt on my life and all these other crimes, you know. That was never found out. But once again, Margarita Strahan's on the board of Crime Stoppers. Klingman's on the board of Crime Stoppers. I keep sending tips to Crime Stoppers, and the crimes continue day after day, for years. Since I have concerns with the integrity of Midland Crime Stoppers, I went ahead and sent the same tip to the Texas Rangers, okay? And you can see that Texas Department, DPS right there, Texas Rangers right here, okay? And cold case tip, that was for the young girl that was murdered. It ain't the first time I've sent a Crime Stoppers tip about this young girl that my friend told me about, a young girl murdered in 2010. And there's all this evidence of these underground homes here where it happened at. And this whole list, a long list of people you can ask about it, which includes a recent candidate for sheriff, Joe Lozano. I recorded him saying that Painter used to hang out down there. There's all kinds of evidence. But, you can see how they don't want to bust that, right? One, you have big oil companies that make big donations, right? And, I'm not saying Apache had people there. I'm saying, we need to investigate and see who was there. And then if it's found out Apache did have employees there, or Pioneer did have employees, or any of these oil companies, then they have some serious questions asked, especially if they've been making large donations to police who've been looking the other way. Okay. I was excited and thinking that finally we're going to see justice served, but DHS agent Paul caught me off guard when he roughly said, "I don't know why you don't sell that house if you continue to feel threatened there." I had already recognized that the people suspected of being connected to this violent crime ring was conspiring together to terrorize me into selling my home, so I explained the Hobbs Act to him. The Hobbs Act says that anybody who conspires with others to obtain the property from another with his consent, induced by wrongful use of actual or threatened force, violence, or fear, or under color or official right is in violation of law. I copy and pasted that. This carries 20 years in prison. Okay, so that's exactly what's going on. That's the textbook example of what's going on. I don't know why you don't sell that house if you're feeling threatened, right? And here's what the Hobbs Act says. Okay, and so anyways, here, this is right from Wikipedia's, definition entry on the Hobbs Act, and then it's what I just read you. Extortion means the obtaining of property. They want me to sell my home with his consent. They're trying to entice me to sell my property, induced by wrongful use of actual or threatened force. Why don't you sell your property? Because of threat, right? That's what he said. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? I mean, and it's recorded. That was the point. They recorded it. Okay. This coordinated effort to terrorize me into moving started after they failed to murder me. See, that's when it started, because they were going to get my house for free when they killed me, and we're going to use the secret police to call it an accident. The ex-wife was going to get the house. It works by some of the crime ring members threatening my life, while others break into my home and steal from me, which goes on to this day, with corrupt police playing dumb and allowing the crimes. And then we have the many people who say, I don't know why you don't sell your home if you feel threatened. Okay, and we're talking, I've documented now 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic, because, what their modus operandi for covering up these crimes. Oh, he's crazy, he takes somebody in the attic. Well, now these crimes are documented all over the place, Well, I didn't catch them on camera. Well, I proved they were hacking the cameras, right? Well, now what are you going to do? They could do this to anybody for any property that you own. Maybe they want your oil wells, your boat, or your grandma's wedding ring. In my case, they want my home because it has $1 million underground home in the backyard connected with oil show parties and multiple capital murders. That's why they want me to sell my home. He wasn't the first person to do this, as I've documented many others asking or ordering me to sell my home, but he was the first law enforcement officer to suggest it, But law enforcement's had their part because they look the other way when I report crimes. I've compared this to a bank being robbed and a teller being shot and the police showing up saying, I don't know why you don't sell that bank. That's absurd. I didn't call law enforcement to tell me to sell my property. I called them to arrest the criminals. This is what I call the move post. I created it several years ago. Actually, it was within just a couple days ago. I was getting, I think it's time to sell your home. This was on Nextdoor. And I copied and pasted and posted the Hobbs Act to them. Let me tell you what, I'm taking print screens of you trying to entice me to sell my home. And if we find out you know about these $1 million underground homes and them parties, now you go to prison for 20 years. That's the point I'm making, because I think you're an idiot if, for these people harassing an innocent, crippled crime victim in the public, because I guarantee you every time I block somebody, I'm taking screenshots so I can later use that in court and send them to prison, right? I'm a crime victim. Don't attack me. Okay, here we go. I'd move. This whole page is I'd move. Here's one right here. Sell your homes and move, you F-on, you moron, and why don't you move? And some of them are nicer than others, and then some might even be honest, it's sincere, whatever. And they don't realize that, hey, there's $1 million underground home. But I feel real sure a whole bunch of them have been there. They're connected with the underground homes and crimes, and that's why they want me to move. Okay, this is just a list of some of the death threats. In one of my recent videos, I went over the threats because I just got threatened at the grocery store a couple of days ago. A guy told me to watch my back, and I said, is that a threat? He said, yes, it is. I made a video about that. I've had so many threats you can't imagine. Once again, that wraps up into the Hobbs Act, trying to terrorize me out of my property. They're threatening my life. He's going to end up in my hole. They're going to get the snitch. Lance Eggleston says, we have access to your residence all times. Nobody will believe your story. You will be silenced, not if, but when. Okay, so there's the threat. And then we got the law enforcement looking the other way going, I don't know why you don't sell that home if you live under threat, right? And then there's the definition of the Hobbs Act. So that meme is connected. It's showing there, and that's an old one right there. There's so many people that have tried to entice me to move under threat of death. I can't even count them all. You have to build a new prison. That night I sent him, that was DH Agent Paul, this video that I made called Decided to Sell My Home, where I said that I decided to sell my home due to the terrorism being allowed by corrupt police against me. I was setting the price at $1 billion. I own this house. I can set the seller sets the price, right? If you can't afford it, you don't want to buy it, you don't have to, but I can set whatever price that I want. And so I set $1 billion. I was making the point that this crime ring not only wants me to sell my home, terrorize me into selling my home, but they want to set the price too. Do you see what I'm saying? Not only do they want your grandma's wedding ring, but they want it for $2.50, right? And if not, they're going to break in your home, terrorize you, and threaten your life, shoot you, and cut off body parts off you, right? And then they all work together. Okay, you see how that works? I'm a man of my word, though. So if they come up with the money, I will be packing and moving, you know? And so, you know, I mean, that was almost a joke right there, you know, $1 billion. There's no property ever been sold for me, you know, especially a 3-bedroom home, right? And yeah, $1 billion, you know, and just cough up the money. I'll be out of here, you know. Y'all won. You terrorized me into selling my home using corrupt police. 2 weeks after this day, the ground was dug up and they were pouring concrete there, but I got this on video. I believe that to be obstructing justice and a capital murder. And I have a video called Met with the Homeland, and now they're pouring concrete. This is a screenshot from the video. My home is on the other side of this wall right here, okay? And you know, when we looked at that map, that's where you can see where the asphalt was coming, where the tunnel was coming at my home. So I'm back there with Homeland 2 weeks earlier showing them where a human trafficking murder tunnel is at. And Homeland's supposed to stop human trafficking, not aid and assist it, right? And you know, here they're pouring concrete. It couldn't be more clear. You know, that's what I said earlier. I bet there's DNA evidence in that tunnel, and they're covering up the tunnel. They're literally covering up a capital murder. Somebody could get the death penalty for that, because that's a death penalty case, you know? And I will show you.
American Storage Center to me. Because my home is like right there. I mean,
this is the video.
Right there where them trees are, you can see the infamous trees.
This is July 17th. I met them there July 2nd.
Here, I think I'll take a picture here. This is where they're doing the concrete work, and you can see them out there. There's the concrete truck, and see,
ain't that amazing, right? 2 weeks after I got this on video, which went viral, U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway from Midland announced he was retiring, okay? I'm coming home. U.S. Conaway, right here, July 30th, 2019. So I met him at Homeland Security on July 2nd. They're pouring concrete on July 17th, and Conaway is announcing his retirement on July 30th, right? Okay, do you see how that works? I had talked to Conaway personally. I had told him about these crimes, but then I found out his brother-in-law his late brother-in-law used to live across the street. I have a feeling Conaway knew about the $1 million underground homes that were put in for George H.W. Bush in the 80s, right? He's a friend of the Bushes, okay? And then the last part here, and come to find out, his late brother-in-law, John Lejeune, used to live across the street from my home, okay? This is the obituary for John Lejeune, and that's where I found it when I looked it up. I was like, oh, look, he's a brother-in-law of Mike Conaway. Actually, he's Suzanne's brother, okay? So he's Suzanne's brother. And also interesting, they had another sibling named Marsu Wilson, and that's why you see that blue line there? The current owner of that house is named William Wilson. And I wonder if that home is still in the Conaway family. I mean, what if this home has a tunnel under it? That would be interesting, wouldn't it, right? And so that's what I'm showing. Also interesting about this home at 3809 Fair Circle, it used to be on here Daniel Price. He was married to Brandy Merrill that owned my home. When I first moved in here, into my home here in 2008, Brandy and Daniel lived in this Conaway home, okay? And Brandy used to own my home. She's the one that sold it to Mike Lawhunt, okay? I think Brandy Price might know something about the crimes here. Law enforcement might want to talk to them, you know? And so here's a map screen I'm showing, and this is a map screen from right before I was ambushed and shot. I already showed you there. You can see where the suspected tunnel was going from Home Depot directly aimed at my house. That's what, and in my backyard, you can see from Google Maps, is one of the 4 underground homes that multiple people have said here. One of them was a recent candidate for sheriff. Here's where I was ambushed and shot inside my home. And it's believed the last homeowner died here the week before the 2008 oil show started. That's real important, you know, since right here in the backyard is an underground home where they're having oil show parties, you know. Across the street over here is this home used to be owned by Ken Slager. He was a commercial director for my company and all our landmen. His group took care of the booth at the oil show. Ain't that interesting? At the oil show, his group, the commercial group, okay? And so there's a Home Depot store. So the other thing I'm going to show here across the street from my home right here, okay, That's the home. That's the Conaway home. You know, this one was owned by the former brother-in-law of Mike Conaway. And remember, I got a woman telling me that there's 4 3-bedroom underground homes. So it's not just this one in my backyard. There's other ones, you know. And so there's people that got some question to answer, I think, there. And that's what they're trying to cover up. Moving on. 3 months later, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Kevin McClellan resigned, and 6 days after that, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned. You know, so then I got a feeling DHS agent Paul knows how come his boss, his big boss, Agent McClellan, resigned 3 months, and that's October 11th. So keep this in mind. I met Homeland there on July 2nd. July 17th, they're pouring concrete. July 30th, Conaway resigns. His brother-in-law lived across the street. October 11th, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Yesterday, a guy tells me, "You don't know how big this is, buddy." And I said, "I think I got an idea. It looks like 2 of these secretaries resigned because of what's going on here, and Pence might have been involved." Okay, and so here, 6 days later, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigns on October 17th, you know. And what I've suspected is the oil companies, see, he's Secretary of Energy, so the oil companies, multi-billion-dollar oil companies, are leaning on the Secretary of Energy going, "You got to cover this up for us, Rick. That ain't good for our stock price. If the public finds out we got an underground home and we're raping and murdering little girls, you know." And Rick says, "I'll pour concrete. Don't worry about it. We'll cover it up for you," you know. And then they get caught on camera pouring concrete to cover up a capital murder. It's been suggested that some multi-billion-dollar oil companies were leaning on former Texas Governor Rick Perry to help cover up the underground oil show party murders for them. That wouldn't be good for the stock price if the public found out. Which I just said. This is from Wikipedia showing Rick Perry. And the point I'm making is he was Secretary of Energy when he left. He was a former governor of Texas, okay? He was the governor of Texas when these oil show parties were going on. I have several emails where I sent to him. He was the governor when I was hunted like an animal and shot and left for dead inside my own home. And then a large gang of secret police are caught covering up the murder attempt. And this was the guy over Texas at the time. And then Trump made him Secretary of Energy. And then, you know, you can see when he left right after I made that video of concrete being poured. But you can see here he was governor of Texas from December 21st, 2000 to January 20th, 2015. Okay. Interestingly, he was preceded by George W. Bush, who was governor of Texas before him, and then preceded and then succeeded by Greg Abbott. And I have contacted Greg Abbott many times over. Obviously, Greg Abbott knows what's going on. This has been happening in his state for a long time, right? I later reported this DHS agent to the U.S. Inspector General for obstruction of justice and recorded the phone call while doing it. I have a video called that reported DHS agent for obstruction of justice. You know, I don't know how to be more clear. You know, I don't know what come of that. You know, I know I live under the threat of death every day, and you know, crimes are still being committed. And I still got people trying to get me to move. You know, and then finally here at the end here it says, interestingly, the same day that I met DHS at the Home Depot store on July 2nd was when Vice President Pence turned around the air and flew back to Washington for an emergency. I wondered if the real reason was planning on how to cover up the oil show party. See, and when this first came out here, July 2nd, I will show you how it's July 2nd there, and Prince abruptly cancels New Hampshire trip for unspecified reason. Well, they come back and come up with some lame excuse. Oh yeah, he was going to meet a drug dealer down there or some kind of crap. And I'm thinking, nah. See, what it was going on when that happened was, you know, Agent Paul was going to come to my house and then text me and said, "No, wait a minute, some stuff come up." And that was when Pence flew back, and I was holding on and waiting, and he flew back into Washington. Well, okay, and then several hours later, then they wanted to meet me in the Home Depot store, and he told me that the reason they didn't want to come to my house, that they changed their mind, because they didn't want to be on my next video. That's what the agent told me, you know. And then when he left, you know, it was obvious they wasn't going to do nothing. You know, he advised me to see the FBI, you know, and I already told him my stories with the FBI. You know, he said they're not dirty anymore. You know, they got a whole bunch of new people down there that, you know, that's not what I found. I went to see him and it was the same thing. The guy he wouldn't even give me his name, you know. And so I have a video called "Was Pence Blackmailed Over the Underground Oil Show Party Murders?" because I've wondered if he was connected to trying to cover them up. You know, pouring concrete, obstructing of justice, tampering with evidence in a capital murder, you know, them are death penalty cases. You know, I mean, that's serious stuff. I'm not making accusations here. I'm just asking questions, right? Stating facts and asking questions. Here's another story about Pence, and this was in August of 2019. Okay, so this is the next month. And what happened was I created this Facebook post called Artesia, New Mexico Suspects. Based on the phone call, the woman told me about the 4 3-bedroom underground homes cost 25 foot deep. And she said, one of the person that was a main player was from a town near Hobbs that started with an A, okay, and an S. That's Artesia. And one of the richest men in New Mexico lives in Artesia. He sold his oil company, Marbob, to Concho here in Midland for over $1 billion. And around the corner from my home is another one of the suspected underground homes owned by a Concho safety man. Okay, and so I did this Facebook post, Artesia, New Mexico, and it was time stamped August 15th that morning. 4 hours later, I see this on my news feed. Vice President Pence flying to Artesia, New Mexico. This is a little bitty town, right? Just some small, tiny little town. 4 hours after I do this Artesia, New Mexico post, Pence is flying to Artesia, right? I'm going, yeah, we see where that's happening. They're watching my Facebook posts, right? They're doing cover-up mode. And he had already been here in April. Pence meeting oil company leaders in Midland, Texas in April 2019. Okay, right here, see them. They're at an oil field, Derek, right now with oil company leaders. Okay, what you want to bet? Maybe some of these oil company leaders, they know something about the $1 million underground homes where the oil show party murders were going up, and maybe they just said that, hey, we'll help you out with a large donation so you'll get elected if you help us cover up these murders, And I don't know that, but I think that's what needs to be investigated here. So anyway, some new information. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Share this. Talk to you later. Bye.